Garrett,
Yes.
why don't we watch us a Western film to get us prepared for Red Dead Redemption 2?
Alex, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Django!
That's like a toothless old man on a porch.
And, well, thank you for joining us again down here at the Digital Drive-In, where we talk about our favorite movies ever, why we like them, and what makes them so darn great. My name is Alex, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Garrett Donardo.
Hello. I have two names, like Rich Evans.
That's true. I think everybody has two, right? Yeah, at least entitled.
Well, I mean, but you never say.
Two.
You never say Alex Pompadour or however you.
Yeah, because it's too long, and I'm never going to say it. You'll never know.
Because it's not like it's posted under your name or anything.
Yeah, they try to fuck it. Yeah, you just had trouble pronouncing it right now. It's not going to make a difference if it's posted in front of you.
Like the Pompadour. I think is how it actually goes.
That's exactly what it is. You got it.
I'd have to look.
And much like our introduction, you have my last name written down? Just for fun?
No.
Oh.
Just for shits and giggles. I write it with a heart at the end. Over and over again. Have you ever seen Misery?
Yeah.
I'm the less attractive Kathy Bates. Imagine Kathy Bates with facial hair.
Oh my gosh,
that's disgusting.
Isn't that an American Horror Story? Wasn't she like a bearded lady at one point?
Oh yeah,
that's what you look like.
Wow, no,
you're the bearded lady from American Horror Story.
I meant yes, yeah, that's me. With worse body hygiene.
This is already too far off the rails. Yes.
I like the way you die, boy.
In case you've been living under a rock for the last 2 years, a little video game called Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out this week. And to celebrate, Garrett and I decided to watch a Western film. And we decided to watch a modern Western film because we also wanted to watch a Tarantino film, didn't we?
Yes.
So we said, it's the best of both worlds! And we did it. So Garrett, why don't you go ahead and tell us what movie did we watch this week?
Django Unchained.
Wow.
The unofficial sequel.
That is true.
Oh crap, I was going to look at something.
And what is Django Unchained about, Garrett?
It's about...
You prick.
Well, you know, it's not actually a Western. It's more of a Southern, because it all takes place in the South, not in the West.
Ah.
But it is about Django Bojangles. No, I don't. Do they ever say what his last name is?
Freeman.
Well, that's what they eventually give him when he's a free man.
He doesn't have one until he
doesn't have one. It is just Django Nero. So yeah, so he's a black guy in the South. So 1 + 1 = 2. What's going on there, and the fact that there are chains in the title tells you what's going on.
Why are you dancing around?
He's a black man.
He's a slave.
You're going to have jokes about slavery. You're going to have jokes about the KKK being completely inept.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not actually the KKK yet.
They're the very early version.
Yeah, what were those called? It's not the Rough Riders. It was something else.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But it is the precursor. And Don Johnson does a fantastic job as one of those guys, and Jonah Hill.
The Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
So, Django, I mean, some people might say, well, it's a different character. How can you use the name? But Django originally started as a Franco Nero production, like in the early to mid 60s, I think. I want to say 66, but I might be
66. Wrong. You are correct.
So he stars as that, and then they made a sequel, but they had Terrence Hill, the guy that's in the Trinity movie.
Mm-hmm.
Called Django Prepare a Coffin, but it used the same backstory basically. and just like continued it on with him. But there have been dozens of unofficial sequels. Some of them would just have like the name Django in it, but the story and the characters would have nothing to do with Django.
Right.
But if everything I looked up on Wikipedia was correct and what they said on there, I'm going to say that there was at least 17 films previous to this that used Django as a main character. But I think there's only actually been like 3 official ones. 2 with Franco Nero and 1 with Terrence West. Or Terrence Hill, I'm sorry. So it's almost like with the James Bond series, where you can have tons of different actors play the same character, basically, and have a very loose sense of canon.
Yeah.
So this is definitely like a spiritual sequel of that time period or universe or circumstances or whatever. So I think it's interesting that he also has Franco Nero in this.
Yeah. Kind of uses him very well, and he pays a lot of respect to that old era.
Yeah.
Because Tarantino is very much like an auteur of old cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves it, very obviously.
And I mean, he has actual 35mm prints, and some of them of the prints that he has are the best prints that are available.
Yeah. He also notoriously, bouncing off of that, despises digital. He's like the opposite of Lynch.
Well, and I have
Lynch will never work on film again, he said, I think.
Yeah, probably because of the ease.
Yeah.
And the experimentation you can do.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I mean, this film looks gorgeous.
It really does. Really does. Who is the DP on it? I gotta check that out.
Oh, why do I want to say Dean Cundey, but that's probably not right.
Well, even if he's not a nice guy, you shouldn't call him Cunty. It's not very nice.
Dean Cundey. Robert Richardson is the cinematographer. He did Kill Bill, Hugo, The Aviator. I guess he was Scorsese's cinematographer for a while.
Right. He did some pretty good stuff. He's shooting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He shot The Hateful Eight, which is also gorgeous.
And Casino.
All right.
Natural Born Killers, A Few Good Men, JFK.
Platoon, Born on the 4th of July. Not bad.
Yeah.
Because, it's a gorgeous looking movie. With the cinematography and with the film on top of that as well.
I mean, because the film is a visual art form.
Yes.
Even though some may disagree. and prefer strictly dialogue and basically the exact same as a play. So I guess I didn't really say much of anything about what the plot was.
That's true. You didn't.
So I mean, it's basically the adventures of Django.
Yeah.
And this ex-dentist that's a German bounty hunter that is Dr. King Schultz.
Which is one of the greatest setups and backstories for a character.
Yes.
Former dentist turned bounty hunter, and also I'm German.
And I wonder how much of that was facilitated by him hurting himself riding a horse.
Yeah.
Because he was like thrown from a horse, or they had some type of a thing where it, like, I don't remember if I doubt it would crush his pelvis, but it did something, bruised his pelvis, hurt his pelvis. And so he had to actually be on a wagon or a carriage instead of riding on horseback.
Right.
And I just wonder how much of his backstory was invented right there on the spot to explain why he would be on some sort of a carriage.
But that carriage is fantastic. I love that.
It is. It
works so well. And it's got like the bouncing tooth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, jiggles back and forth.
Which comes into play later.
Yeah. And they put some dynamite in it.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like that's where they were storing their money, and then they put dynamite in it.
Yeah,
like, that's great.
Anyway, who cares about the story?
I'd say it's fairly important.
Well, I know. Most people have seen this movie, I'd assume.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with this podcast. It's not here's a movie you've never heard of or have never seen before. It's everyone should have seen this. You should see it before you listen to the podcast. And then
with the exception of the case of last week, I think, with Mandy. But
everyone should have seen that, though.
Yeah, but no one did. Well, a lot of people did, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's not Django Unchained.
It's not as popular. That's
what I meant.
Yeah, it's not a crowd pleaser.
I mean, I was pretty pleased.
Yeah, it's a me pleaser.
Ew, that's
That
gross.
doesn't. Yeah, no.
Mhm.
Take it out.
Don't ever say that again.
Walton
Anyway.
Goggins.
So the two of them team up, King Schultz and Django, to go out and rescue Django's wife from a brutal Mississippi plantation owner
Candieland.
called Candieland. That's what the place is. And of course, that's led by Calvin Candy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio.
How do you oh well I guess we can get to it.
Yeah, we'll talk about DiCaprio, we'll talk about all of them when we get to like characters and all that. But first off, I think we had to talk about the biggest character in this movie, Mr. Quentin Tarantino, the writer-director.
He is a character.
He is known for, obviously, this film, and also for a little film called Pulp Fiction, which I don't think anybody saw. It's pretty low-key. Kill Bill, Death Proof, From Dusk Till Dawn. He had a little segment in Four Rooms.
Reservoir Dogs, man. That was my favorite one.
I know. I was trying to list all the weird unknown shit that he also did, but
he directed a segment in Sin City.
yeah, that he did. But anyway, he's a very much. I already said that one, buddy.
I think Django's last name is Unchained. I just figured it out.
Oh, gotcha. That name is Django. Django Unchained.
Django Unchained.
Django. Do you like Quentin Tarantino movies?
I do.
Oh. Well, I don't. Haha, gotcha. The ruse the whole time.
I mean, even his not great movies are still like highly entertaining, and they're like the characters are interesting, and he does really well with the visual flair. I don't think he's made a terrible movie, a bad movie.
I only dislike one movie that he's done. There's only one movie. That's Death Proof.
Yeah,
I gotta watch it again, but it's the only one that I feel isn't great. Like all of the other ones are great, if to excellent, to perfect in the case of Pulp Fiction. And this one is so close. We'll get to that later.
The characters don't grab me in Death Proof.
Yes. Yeah. Planet Terror is much better of a Grindhouse.
And that's the problem, is like seeing the Grindhouse films together, and Death Proof comes after Planet Terror.
Yeah.
You're so hyped up with that, and then all those cool trailers come out, and then it's like, shoom, like the air is taken out of the room, and it's like nothing happens. And you're like, ugh. I think that if it would have just came out by itself and it was a slow build up to something, maybe. Yeah. But being presented the way that it was just a letdown.
Although the ending is pretty great.
Yeah.
They just beat the fucking shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
But it almost like it didn't deserve, or it didn't earn it.
No, I agree. Characters aren't built up enough for that to be gratifying.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the great things about this movie, is the fact that for the most part, the characters are all really well fleshed out.
Yeah. We only really have 3 characters that are big in this movie.
But it's like all the side characters are played by character actors or people you know really well, that like instantly as soon as you see them, you know what kind of a person they are.
That's very true.
And that goes a long way into establishing the world and everything that this goes into.
It's a very interesting movie in that when I put it back on again, that's probably the 5th or 6th time I've seen it. For this podcast, I just was like, I missed this world. And it was nice little sink back into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. Like Tarantino's always been excellent at world building, and there's a big theory, not really a theory, it's pretty much a thing, that all of his movies are in the same universe, I guess, conjoined by some strings. But, you know, stepping foot back into this world to watch it again was almost instantly gratifying, and it's an endlessly rewatchable film. I really think that. One of the most rewatchables that he has, I think. And, you know, from that opening, the opening, like, guitar beats to Django, the song, which I think is from the 1966 one, right?
Yes.
It's like, you're right into it immediately. And when like the whip sound comes in when it says Unchained,
Mm-hmm.
it's a fantastic way to open it. And yeah, I just love this world, and I loved getting back into it for this one. So I'm glad we did it for this podcast.
Yay!
Did you like the Hateful Eight?
I did, but it was the set pieces he had to play with were fantastic. I didn't necessarily like where he went with it.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's like I liked Bruce Dern. I like Kurt Russell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, other than Channing Tatum, I liked the characters. I'm not a Channing Tatum fan.
You didn't even like him in that movie?
No, he
See,
didn't pull it off.
I didn't like him either, but I thought it was pretty good in that one.
It's like knowing that he was down there waiting the whole time. Then when he finally came up, I was like,
that one gets I find that one gets a lot of flack for what it is, though. A lot of.
But I've only seen it once.
That's true.
I kept holding out, hoping that he would release the completed edition.
Yeah, he'll never do that though.
Yeah, I know. Well, another thing is with Django, there's like almost a half hour of cutscenes.
Yeah.
That hasn't been released, and there were talks and rumors. I wouldn't be surprised if after he does his 10 films or 12 films or however many he's going to end up doing, if before he dies, if he doesn't have a glut of special editions all come out with all extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems to be that kind of a person that at the anniversaries, 25, 30 year, whatever, he will release things.
Yeah.
I just have to live that long.
We'll have to see for Pulp Fiction then if we have a 25th anniversary. That'll be next year.
That one pretty much has everything released for it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just mean if he does like another edition for it.
Yeah.
Then that'll be the mark of like, okay, he's going to be doing that kind of stuff.
It kind of starts with like the Kill Bill things with the whole bloody affair. If he would ever release that.
Yeah, which I wish he would.
Yeah, he does. He needs to.
I feel like that's a perfect kind of thing for Criterion to do.
Yeah.
And just get like the love and care behind it of people that care about it. Or Arrow. And just somebody that cares about the release and puts it together to the highest possible form it can be in and have him work with you. But who knows?
I'd 100% be behind that.
Yeah. Regardless, he's one of my favorite directors, if not my favorite. He has been for a really long time. So, I mean, as I now start to watch and branch out a little more, now, I've been watching more Kubricks and more Lynches and all that, I'm getting more differences of what could be like my favorite. But for the time being, I would say that Tarantino is still probably my favorite.
Yeah. To me, he's kind of like the Spielberg of the modern era.
Yeah.
And the fact, not that he makes Spielbergian type films, but the fact that Spielberg took what he was raised on in the 50s and made it new, but for public consumption. And even though they were B movies and not necessarily extremely popular and kind of cheesy, he actually made them acceptable to a large audience. And Tarantino does the same thing with exploitation films and B movies and things like that from the 50s and 60s to now.
Yeah.
60s and 70s, I guess, more. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. We should get into Django a little bit. We'll talk about the script. Let's start with that. Now, he won Best Original Screenplay. What do you think about this script? Because I think it's pretty fantastic.
It's pretty tight. I mean, it's balanced between action and romance and comedy, and it like plays on those almost entirely on their strong points.
I forgot how hilarious of a film this was until I put it back on. It's consistently very, very funny, despite being very dark.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a person not only knowing their craft, but understanding the characters that are in that world and what they can get away with and what they would sound like.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of good, there's the Southern caricature of like a hillbilly without any teeth.
Yeah.
Not being able to speak coherently.
Yeah.
And it's like there are some in that as well, played for laughs, but there's a lot of I mean, it's like the parts with the KKK and the whole thing about the hoods.
Yeah.
And about, the eyes being cut out. And they can't
Anybody
see
bring
anything.
any extra bags?
Yeah. It's a lot of like situational comedy, which you don't necessarily think of.
You don't expect.
It's almost like good enough to be in a spoof movie, like an actual, real, like Abrams, Zucker, Mel Brooks kind of.
I was gonna say a very Mel Brooksian kind of scene that KKK scene is. Or there's the one guy that leaves his bag on his head the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's Quentin Tarantino under there, but it's just fucking hilarious. Or, fine, now don't ever ask me or Mound for anything else. And the guy gets pissed and rides away because they all hate his masks.
Like, the comedy isn't in lieu of the story, or it doesn't like take you out of the world. It actually like pulls you in deeper because it seems like things that people would do.
Yeah. And it also, plays the KKK off to be a bunch of fucking idiots too.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I always
really
applaud that.
Oh yeah.
And the dialogue is really snappy.
It's got that Tarantino flair.
Mm-hmm. So like Leonardo DiCaprio, who doesn't typically play a whole bunch of diverse roles.
Yeah.
Does a really good villain.
He's fantastic in this movie. This is probably my favorite performance from him. And I think it's a shame because he did, when he finally, the meme won his Oscar for The Revenant. It should have been this or The Wolf of Wall Street over The Revenant.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he wasn't even the best actor in The Revenant, much less the best actor of the year.
Exactly.
And then Christoph Waltz playing the German guy and telling like his stories and the way like his horse nods when he says his name.
Yep.
When he introduces him, it's like it's all those little touches. It's one of the things I've talked to you about before that really means something to me are the details within a film,
little character moments and stuff that just build them slightly.
The scripts and Tarantino scripts in general are just full of those types of things. It's like he can think about those things and take it outside of himself and say like, what would this character say? What would be the mannerisms? And I'm sure he works with his actors as well, and that helps, being the writer and director, to be able to know what it is that you're going for. But he always throws a lot of that stuff in, and the world feels lived in, and the characters feel realistic, even when they're doing like absurd things. They still feel grounded in some areas.
He really has he's really good at building characters, unlike anybody really can. That's also working today.
Well, he has such a great knowledge of pop culture.
Yeah.
That he's almost able to make those things that will just fit snugly within that, and they become memorable characters because of it. One of the things about the music for this film is not only does it have like that nice 1960s era Django theme with the guitar and the spaghetti western feel, but he also puts like modern music, and there's even like rap songs.
I don't think there's actually there's only about a handful of original pieces for this movie.
Right.
It's a collection of a bunch of other things. But yeah, like you were saying, a lot of modern stuff.
And a lot of times modern things take me out of the film. And I'm like, why did they put that there? But all of his music feels like it fits in this.
Yeah.
And it's really complimentary.
Right. Like I think the original song for this was 100 Black Coffins, which plays when they're traveling to Candieland, which is a rap song, a heavy rap song. Obviously, there's the Tupac one that's in later. But, hearing that for the first time, you're right, it doesn't take you out of it, despite being, a couple hundred years apart in the setting when it comes out. It really, really fits and is really well executed in here. Something actually Ennio Morricone composed, I think, the only original orchestral piece for this. I don't know exactly what it is or when it's played, but obviously Ennio Morricone did the music and won an Oscar, his only Oscar for The Hateful Eight. His only Oscar? I forget if it's his only one or the first one in a long time.
I'm not sure, but whatever it is, he definitely deserves more.
Yes.
And
but after this film,
wasn't that the stuff they didn't use for The Thing?
Some of it, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just going to Ennio Morricone here before I go any further.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's the only Oscar he won was for The Hateful Eight.
Hey, see, doesn't that make you sick?
Yeah.
And that just shows what a joke these award shows are.
Yes. And he's been around forever. He's scored so many movies, though.
The maestro.
He's got a Razzie win or nomination? Just a nomination for The Thing.
I mean, come on. It's all these movies that are ahead of their time, and the people don't get it to begin with, you know?
But in this film, he was actually disgusted with the way Tarantino used the music throughout the movie.
Because he edits it and cuts it off and does it the way he wants to.
Yeah. He said that it didn't make sense for the story. He says that it was used all in the wrong places, and he vowed never to work with him again. And then somehow he got him back. The Hateful Eight. And he won an Oscar for it. Very recognized. Do you remember that? Have you seen that clip of him accepting his award?
I remember watching it when it happened, but I don't really remember it now.
It's great because it's just like this 93-year-old man or whatever, Italian, speaks barely any English, really small, and he just stands up there and the microphone's like right at the top of his forehead. I'd like to thank you very much for this award. Great. He's like a living legend. Mm-hmm. But it's great. I'm trying to think of what other songs are standouts in this one. Oh, the use of His Name is King, which is from another older Western.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that Tarantino does well is use stuff that either you're somewhat familiar with or is almost like a genre staple to like help establish what it is that he's setting up. But it's like, that's actually really genius. Especially like subconsciously for the viewer to pick up on that.
I think the one piece that Morricone composed is when Django shoots one of the Brittle brothers, and it's that like triumphant trumpet score as it like zooms in on him or whatever. Or is it when he shoots him or just when he walks up to him? But you know when it's like it's big and bombastic and it's very spaghetti westerny. I think that's the original score that he composed for this, which is one of my favorite moments in the entire film musically.
Every time I hear Morricone, I can't help but think of the Leone soundtracks.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, I'd never heard that one before.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I love how when you watch that movie, it's like the music actually comes from the Spanish guy like cursing. Which is great. I don't know how many. I mean, you would hope that everyone has seen that. But...
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is obviously what we're talking about. Yes. I watched that. Yeah, I watched that a long time ago. Now that my foray on that, which you can read somewhere, is that was the first time I watched that movie. It was good.
And they keep trying to restore it in 4K, but they keep getting the yellow tinting wrong. So I'm still waiting for that to come out.
For that one or for all of them?
For all of, I mean, really, okay. Yeah, all the Leone movies.
Because I thought the Fistful of Dollars 4K looked really nice, at least from the trailer. But I might have been wrong with the coloring. Wasn't paying attention to that.
And it's one of those things where it's like if you start watching it, you get used to it. Or you don't necessarily notice it, but then when they start doing like screen grabs and they like compare it to the previous releases and what the negative actually looks like, you're like, oh yeah, wow, that looks cool.
Yeah.
So, anywho,
another staple point for Quentin Tarantino movies is violence.
Yes.
And Django Unchained is quite.
It has its moments of violence.
And when there are moments, they are pretty visceral, aren't they?
Yeah.
Sometimes
it depends on what you're comparing it to.
I think sometimes, especially like in the early scene, the first couple headshots that King Schultz takes one on James Remar's first character,
beautiful,
and then on the horse of the other character are like massive. There's massive amounts of gore from them.
This shows to me why practical effects will always be better than CG. Because blood splatter does not look good digitally added.
I cannot imagine the final or the big shootout That comes at, like, I guess the end of the second act, if you want to say. I cannot imagine that with, like, CG.
Well, I mean, it's like when there's that sniper shot all the way across the field that Schultz does, and then the guy's blood splatters on the cotton.
Yes.
You have to have a physical, practical effect for that.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
White and red look so good.
Yes. Another benefit from film. You have that depth that you don't have digital. I mean, digital could do a lot too, don't get me wrong, and there's some films that are shot digitally that I almost can't picture any other way. But film does have extreme positives as well.
But like in that final shootout scene, there's things going off. Final shootout, I keep saying. It's the last, like, it's one of the last big moments, right?
Right, it's where you think everything's going to end, to be honest.
Where maybe it should have ended, but
well,
I'll get to that.
You do get that nice revenge story as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like Looney Tunes. Like how ridiculous the violence at the end.
Yeah.
Like the
like
physics of everything.
Spraying in his eyes and everything. You can see it get in his eyes and all that. Or it's all over the wall, or that one guy gets shot like 15 times while he's lying on the ground. He's screaming and his friends are hitting him and Django's hitting him. And
yeah, it almost turns into a Fulci movie.
Yeah. It's great.
Everyone turned off the podcast because they don't know who Fulci is.
Yeah.
Who? It's another Italian.
Fuck this guy making references I don't understand.
What is he, a hipster?
I don't want to listen to this podcast anymore.
Click.
What, does he think he's better than me?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Fair enough. And there's also a couple moments of violence that's not like absurd and played for not laughs, but like the shootout is and like the opening is. We have, of course, the Mandango fight. And the dog scene, both of which Tarantino says were longer before and were trimmed down significantly because he said it would absolutely traumatize audiences. Yeah,
I love when he's like, I can take this kind of violence, but a lot of people can't, so that's why I cut it. And I'm like, oh man, I want to see it.
Well, there's little cuts in later, right?
Yeah, and you can tell what it was going for. Yeah,
I can't even imagine what that dog scene would look like in its entirety. I feel like it'd be like Bone Tomahawk level gross.
Yeah, I mean it would verge into horror,
which I think was his intention.
Yeah,
and he cut it down a little bit, but you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I don't think the movie suffers from having it dialed down because you do get the impact, you understand what's going on, but the exploitation fan and the gore fan in me wants to see all of it. I like it when it makes me feel uneasy, and there are very, very few movies that do that.
So you're saying this one does do that, or you wish that it went all the way in? So
I would love to have seen him full blast. I mean, because they gave him R rating, even with it cut in.
Yeah, well, it was never not going to get an R.
Right. So
with the amount of language in it.
But I meant, like, sometimes violence can get so bad they want to give it an NC-17 rating. So they did give it an R rating.
Yeah. Now, was that an R rating before he cut it down?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the...
Some of the stuff I felt like, when you see the cuts later while King is contemplating some things, I feel like some of that was pushing it.
Yeah, and that was one of the things he is on one of the special features on the Blu-ray where he's talking about making the cuts for it and was saying that even when it was completed before, they gave him an R, but he was already intending on making cuts after like seeing the work print or whatever.
Right.
Just because he felt like he would lose the audience rather than worrying about what the rating is.
I mean, that's the mark of a great director, right?
Oh yeah, and understanding his, what needs to be in there and what doesn't need to be in there.
I just can't picture him watching. I can picture him watching the film and being like, "This is great! Wow, this is really oh shit, okay, I might have to get cut down a little bit. All right, oh man, oh geez, we did do that, didn't we? Oh, okay, yep. All right, well, okay, I want to watch the rest of this movie again." I feel like he watches this movie like 8 times. Feels like he's that kind of guy.
I could just see him having a grin on his face from the violence on screen and looking at the person next to him that has a horrified expression. He's like, you know what? Maybe I should cut some of that.
And he's furiously masturbating.
He's got a hard on hitting the back of the guy's head in the front of him.
This is good shit. This is good shit.
Want to get me some more popcorn?
Yeah, but he does he's such a guy. He's such a weird guy.
Don't
anyway,
say.
But but he just loves film.
Oh, yeah.
I heard this one. There's a story of him when he watched Mad Max Fury Road, which of course is of another film we did on this podcast. And he says that he was so scared for that movie because he couldn't see a Mad Max without Mel Gibson. And then he goes, but then, I got the, whatever, 30, was it 35? Is that on? 65? What is it? Probably 35, right?
I would imagine 35.
So when he got the 35 millimeter film for it at his house, he says, and he's like, and I lugged it into my projector and I sat down and I watched it 6 times in one weekend. It's like the dude's got a big ass 35 millimeter projector. That's how he watches his movies at his house.
Yeah, I mean, he owns his own cinema too.
Yeah, which I would love to go to. That'd be sweet.
Wouldn't that be great? Yeah.
I wonder what he thinks about Mandy. I feel like he's all on board for it. I feel like he'd love the shit out of it.
I don't remember if he said anything about Beyond the Black Rainbow.
I don't know about that, but I feel like Mandy's up his alley, right?
That might be too arty for him.
Think so?
It might be.
What's it? You just watched It Follows, and he dislikes that movie as well.
The thing is, I remember him talking negatively about David Lynch when David Lynch got, especially past the Twin Peaks era, which is the era that I love David Lynch, where David Lynch is really Lynchian.
Yeah, the
and Tarantino, like Lost Highway, Tarantino basically said that David Lynch has now gone so far up his ass. And it's like, really, dude? Just fucking whatever.
And now you could say that about him at this point after this one.
Yeah. David Lynch has only got fucking better.
Yeah.
So.
But the character makes, much like David Lynch, I think he makes the films literally, but also, he makes the films. It's something about seeing that name. You understand what a Spielberg film's going to be, right? But he also makes some different things, like E.T. and Schindler's List are fairly different.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Spielberg tried to grow up.
But if you see Quentin Tarantino's name on a movie, you know what it's going to be. If you see David Lynch on a movie, you probably know what it's going to be. Or how it's going to feel. I feel like they're very close in that, and that's the mark of a great sort of auteur, right? He has his own flair, even if he's doing something wildly different. Like Tarantino's almost Kubrickian in how he jumps in and out of different genres. But every time, he adds his own style to it. I've always thought that he should make a slasher film or a horror film. And that would be. I
kind of feel like Robert Rodriguez is that side of him.
Yeah, that's true. Although Robert Rodriguez also has Spy Kids.
Mm-hmm.
And The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tarantino did an episode of CSI.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I gotta watch both the Grindhouse movies again. Can you buy them together, like stitched together? Is there a copy of that?
There was the Blu-ray that came out. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I'd have to check to make sure it's literally the theatrical version and not just the
2 movies together.
Yeah, but I know you can buy them.
I have them both. I mean, if I just didn't have to get out and switch discs, it'd be sweet.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a release called Grindhouse that has both of them together on the same disc. I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to look into it. What were we talking about Django again? Violence?
Yeah, we talked about the violence and
it's violent. It's a Tarantino movie. It's fucking violent. What'd you expect?
Right.
Walk in the park? Now Tarantino should make a straight story at one point. Like something like that. Just fucks off and makes a Disney film.
I mean, this movie especially made me wonder could he make like a seriously mature film and not have anything in it?
Brown.
And I kind of feel like he's toyed with that with Hateful Eight.
Little bit, but it's still very Tarantino-y, though.
Right.
It's got all of his quirks. It's got everything in it, and it ends in a big clusterfuck shootout, right?
Yeah, so I wonder if he even has the ability to play it completely straight.
Like, he's going to do Star Trek, but he's going to get really... Maybe, but he's going to get really weird with that, too.
Yeah, they should just stop doing any new Star Trek, period.
Yeah. But if they're going to do more, I would rather see it in the hands of someone just wildly different like this versus just give it to what Fast and Furious guy that did the last one.
Yeah, I think that they've done it wrong. I mean, it's like with a lot of other properties. It's like they just don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we could talk
money.
about... That's true. Money's a big thing. I guess we could probably talk about some of the actors in this movie.
Yeah.
Because they're all pretty great. We already...
An actor not going to be in the movie.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get there, Garrett. Stole my segue, Garrett.
Take that segue. Oh no.
So Jamie Foxx plays Django in this film, does he not?
Yeah.
What do you think about Jamie Foxx?
I think he was fine as this character.
I do too. I think it's probably one of his better performances.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was going to say. Like
Collateral. I think Collateral's still better.
There's not very... Jamie Foxx is kind of like Jamie Foxx in all his movies, and Any Given Sunday, he's Jamie Foxx. You know, even the Ray Charles movie, he's pretty much so Jamie Foxx.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have any negative feelings towards him, and I think he plays the cowboy very well in this.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to have like kind of that arrogant attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Something I think that Will Smith could not do. And Will Smith, of course, was intended to play Django originally.
Yeah, it was written with him in mind.
Yeah. Which I cannot, for the life of me, see at all.
No, it would be like, from Men in Black. Could you imagine?
Although we might have gotten a dope-ass end credit song out of it.
Yuck.
Wiki wow west.
I don't like his music either.
Well, my name is Django, and I'm here to say...
I love Fruity Pebbles in a major way.
Because I'm going to kill the white folks. All of them today.
Unless you're German, then you're okay.
And I blow up the house, and I pork my wife. And at the end of the day, I'm going to take your life.
Oh, man, no. I mean, could you imagine him punching Leonardo DiCaprio and saying, "Welcome to Earth"?
Tell the truth. I feel like this movie would have had to have been so incredibly different. Because Jamie Foxx is older, but he doesn't feel old in this movie. He feels kind of young, you know? I feel like 2012 Will Smith felt much older than 2012 Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I remember they said they didn't use Denzel Washington because he was considered too old.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Jamie Foxx is older than Will Smith by a year. But Will Smith just feels older, you know what I mean?
He's been in the public eye longer, probably.
Yeah, that's true. I can't see him. I feel like it's too high profile. I feel like that kind of Will Smith in this movie would almost not overshadow Christoph Waltz, especially. But I feel like they would.
Especially since Waltz is a good actor. Whereas you always see Will Smith in any movie he's in as Will Smith.
Yes, exactly.
It'd be like having Bill Cosby as Django.
Oh man, that'd be kind of rapey, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean, believable as a bad guy, but not a good action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta go to the Candieland.
I gotta get the wife. I'm gonna get in the hot box.
Bippity boppity, the white guys are droppity.
I guess, we talked about King Schultz already, but Christoph Waltz plays the character to perfection.
Yes, I cannot picture anyone else being
anybody. No, not at all. Anybody else. There's no discussion And I think it was probably written for him after Inglourious Bastards as well.
You would have to imagine so.
Because it's probably one of the greatest characters I think I've ever seen.
He's really good.
Okay, well, I guess you disagree with that. He's really good. He just fits
very entertaining. Yes.
He fits his role so incredibly well.
Yeah.
At every time, even in the more serious moments, you can feel that. In the almost more fatherly moments, like in the case when he's telling Django the story, and Django like nestles up to the fire, you feel every single second and every different emotion and everything that King Schultz does in this movie, and it's played so well.
He feels like a pure character too.
Yes, yeah. He helps out Django because he needs help, but he says he feels responsible for him now. You can see he has a conscience the whole movie, and that's the thing that ends up getting him killed, right? Is his conscience, and he can't just let someone like Candy live, as arrogant as he is and such.
You know what I just got to thinking?
What's that?
What if this would have been The Last Jedi, with the Christoph Waltz character being Luke?
Okay. But I don't know what you mean, though.
Well, instead of having like morally gray ambiguity, if you have, because to me, and they're talking almost like about mythology or about, I'm trying to think of the word, with Broomhilda, and it's like a fairy tale.
Yes.
And it's like a legend.
Mm-hmm.
Christoph Waltz plays a legendary type character because he doesn't have an arc. He doesn't change how he feels. He doesn't have any ambiguity. You know who he is, and he stays that way all the way up until the end.
Yeah.
And it's like, I kind of think that legendary stories need characters like that.
And then wouldn't that almost have made Luke exactly like Obi-Wan?
Yes.
Which is what they already did in The Force Awakens with Han.
Yes.
So, I don't know. I don't know if that would work twice in a row with
that's
The Last Jedi.
But having Christoph Waltz
as Luke,
just
replace him.
That would be great. Yes. No, I was just saying, like, you don't see him and go, he's just playing the Alec Guinness role in this movie.
Right.
You literally don't think about that. You just like, wow, that was a really good character. I like the way he played that. That was perfect for what was needed in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the characters fit the story. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yes, I agree.
That's all. What about Samuel L. Jackson?
Okay, we'll go to Samuel L. Jackson first. He's fucking hysterical in this movie. His first scene when they arrive at Candieland, I cannot stop laughing the entire time. It is so friggin' funny. Oh, man.
He almost steals the third act.
He does. He does steal it. It's great. It's great. It's fantastic. But Samuel L. Jackson is also an excellent actor.
Yes.
So you see these hilarious moments in that hilarious scene from Steven, but then there's that dinner scene when he's putting two and two together, and you can see it in his eyes. And it's another character that I can't see anybody else playing that role.
And he's just as evil as Candy.
Yeah, if not more so.
Yeah. Because
it's more or less against, like, I'm doing air quotes, his own kind, I guess.
Yeah.
But it feels like Tarantino, and I don't know the story, or I kind of do, maybe, I don't know. I have a feeling I know it, where he kind of just called up Samuel L. Jackson. I have this idea for this new movie. Okay. It's about like a black bounty hunter. Oh, you want me to play him? No, I want you to play this old decrepit white guy that lives on the plantation, except you're not white. Okay, let's do it. Because that's what he feels like. He just feels like this old white guy, even though he's not. But then there's those moments of where he's, still treated like a slave, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. You got you were talking about very dynamic characters. Everybody. The smaller roles, in the big roles, all of them.
It's almost like there are no small roles. It's like every character is treated like they're the main person. even if they have a very little screen time.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, Walton Goggins.
Yeah,
He's only in the movie a few minutes, but man, it's like he has a distinct walk, he has a distinct look, he has a distinct attitude.
Well, and I think that Tarantino liked him and liked his style, liked working with him so much that he created a character around him for the Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Because his character in the Hateful Eight is awesome. It's fantastic.
I almost wish he was one of the main guys.
Well, he pretty much is.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like...
I would put him at the third main character of that movie. Behind Samuel L. Jackson and Kurt Russell.
Yeah, it's the time involved.
And he lasts way longer than Kurt Russell.
Right. I almost wish like he had the story importance of like a Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Is what I meant.
That's what I'm wondering is like, because, he's not a small... Christoph Waltz isn't a small role in Inglourious Bastards. He's a sizable role. But then, that role probably wasn't written for him, with him in mind. But then, after seeing that, he wrote King Schultz. Used Christoph Waltz in a much longer, much bigger capacity, and that character was pretty much written for him. And then the same thing with Walton Goggins from this film to the Hateful Eight. So Channing Tatum's going to be the
big one in the next
one. The lead in the next one.
Logan Lucky 2.
Directed by Quentin Tarantino. I'd watch the shit out of that. Who else do we have here? Oh, obviously Leonardo DiCaprio.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we talked a little bit about Calvin Candy, but I guess it's kind of a meme at this point. But did you know he cut his hand on the table when he smashed the table? And it is a meme if you go anywhere on Reddit or anything and see that. But it's fantastic. That entire screaming portion at the table is so terrifying.
He is a disgusting character. I mean, he has no good traits whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what you need for a villain.
And but he's played by like Hollywood's good boy.
Right.
And he's almost like in love with his sister too, which I picked up this time around, I think. It certainly seems like it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like there's something more there, and then you can like read into it more. And like him having that skull, and talking about the bumps on the back of it, and all of that being complete hogwash. But it's just he believes it, and it's like it's very. It just builds more of that character, and it's like his death scene is so minimalist.
Yep.
But it's like that's also perfect for him. He doesn't go away in a blaze of glory. He doesn't do anything. He just falls over and that's it.
He's shot down like a dog in the street.
Yeah. And it's like, how fitting.
Yep. He's this big, grand, everything, very theatrical person, the massive house and all that. Yeah. One little bullet. End,
none of it's left.
Yep. And none of it matters. No! Calvin!
He does such a good job screaming.
Right? Actually, that reminds me of something I really wanted to talk about, which is some of the cinematography in this.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the shots, there's a lot of really quick zooms and whip and pans and stuff, which Tarantino does sometimes. There's some of it in Kill Bill. Not a lot, I don't think. This is definitely where he uses it the most, is this film. But I picked up on, it's almost like a whip. The camera's like a whip. And I was thinking this because of when we talked about The Shining, we were talking about how the axe, when Jack is tearing down the door, that the camera almost moves like the axe. And it's hacking into the door with you every time. And it's mostly used kind of in times of, I don't want to say just racism, but like where bad characters are, like when we're introduced to Leonardo DiCaprio, the camera zooms all the way in on him. Or
which is like what it would be for like Danny when he's scared, you see his face.
Yeah, exactly. Or like when they pull Broomhilda out of the hot box and it whips right into her, kind of thing. It's used mostly in those moments, which I can't help but think that it's like a whip.
Well, when Django is wearing his blue boy costume and he goes after the guy with the whip.
Yeah, exactly. Is there one used there too?
I want to say it's not as pronounced, but it does have kind of a either with the movement or with the cut where it almost seems like it's moving with the whip just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as
Exactly.
pronounced as the axe scene,
No.
but it's like that. It did kind of make me start to pay more attention to the camera movement after that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what you're talking about, and I agree.
It's very interesting, but I only picked up on it like this is like the 5th or 6th time I've watched this film, and this is the first time I've picked up on that, which is what I love in movies. I love it when I can watch something over and over again and pick something up from it differently every single time. Like Edgar Wright's really good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, then there's a fantastic commentary on the Hot Fuzz Blu-ray between Edgar Wright and Quentin Tarantino where they just talk about their favorite movies and inspirations and stuff. It's pretty great.
When Django is training with the gun and the snowman,
yeah,
there's a lot of like where he's drawing and then it'll automatically cut to something happening to the snowman.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like you're getting shot at it.
Yeah. Awesome. It's great. It's great cinematography, great use of the camera to tell the story visually and to tell things visually. You know, with that scene especially, we get the sense that Django's a great shot, or at least getting better, which of course comes into play later at the shootout. How awesome is that one part of the shootout where he's dual wielding the pistols, and then he runs out of bullets in the one, and he just throws it away.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awesome.
And so he holds that one guy as a shield while he's getting the gun out of his hand.
Yeah, he shoots him in the arm.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Or when he shoots the one guy and the bullet goes through him and then like ricochets in the background and you hear all like the classic ricochet sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in the back. Oh, it's great.
Great. And then there's where Django picks up a different gun. It's like a different caliber of gun, and when he shoots somebody, it actually like goes through the other room and like breaks a vase.
Yeah, I think that has to do with and all the blood and all that too.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it in the snowman. Whenever he shoots something and it's just black where he shot it.
Yes,
the guns are just so much more untamed and powerful. They feel visceral and brutal.
There is one thing I noticed this time when Django is reintroduced to Broomhilda and the door opens. It's the exact same sound as the door opening in Half in the Bag.
Really?
Yeah.
Just that classic little sound effect.
Yeah, it's not.
But I think it's used in this. It's because of Tarantino and his love of all those films. That's how it's used, though. It's put there intentionally. It's not like laziness.
Oh
right?
no, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't mean like. Oh
no, I know. I'm just furthering the conversation here.
I gotcha.
It's like when you watched It Follows last week, and you told, or a couple weeks, or whenever, I don't even remember. And you're like, wow, they use this really stupid sound for opening the cupboard or something like that.
Oh, the medicine cabinet is the exact same sound as the Unity engine medicine cabinets that's used in like 7 Days to Die.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's used poorly there, right? And it feels like it
feels like they went to a
cheap.
Database and paid for it. I mean, it's not quite like Wilhelm scream.
No. But here you can feel that. In this one, you can feel that sort of like it's almost used as an ode again back to those old exploitation films and all those sound effects and the Wilhelm screams and all that.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. It's not like it's cheap, but it's like
it fits so well.
For It Follows, it's like, really, you couldn't open a medicine cabinet and record that?
Yeah. But this isn't the It Follows podcast.
No. And I would have to say that Django Unchained is probably one of my... I don't want to put a specific number on it, but in my top of the modern Westerns.
Yeah. Yep. I can't think of very many others that are above it for me. This is probably the my favorite modern Westerns are like neo-Westerns.
Right.
Like if I had to just name 3 that are my favorites at the time, it's Django, Hell or High Water, Bone Tomahawk, which isn't a neo-western; it's an actual western. But Wind River is really good.
No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you were going for modern. Past 2000. Yeah, it's great. Good stuff. And I saw somebody on the I think Red Dead Redemption's subreddit, because obviously you're getting hyped for the game, browsing that subreddit. The question was like, what are your favorite Western movies? And the guy's like, Django Unchained, if that counts. And I just responded to, why wouldn't it count?
Yeah, are you gonna what?
Of course it counts. It's a Western. What else would it be? Yeah. So how excited are you for that game?
I almost can't put it into words.
We are recording this
2 weeks away, basically?
This is going to come out on October 26th. It's going to come out the day Red Dead comes out, this podcast. Most likely. That is what we are doing.
Dead.
We're not recording that week. We're not recording on that day. We ain't doing anything else. We just playing Red Dead. But today is October 10th. And oh my god. I don't know if I can go another 16 days, Garrett.
I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can. What am I going to do? What else am I supposed to do?
The thing is, okay, Skyrim, which I know a lot of people have negatives about that. That's fine. For me personally,
it's fine. It's a fantastic game.
I've played over 1,600 hours on the PlayStation 3 version.
Mm-hmm.
I also own the Xbox 360 and the PC version.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite games of all time because I feel like I can completely go away from the storyline of what the game tells me that I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the freedom to do anything that I want to do within the game world.
Yes.
And I want to just escape into that. Now, I know I won't be role-playing a completely mute, silent character. But one of my favorite characters of the modern decades has been John Marston.
Right.
So if anyone can write the kind of character that I would really enjoy playing as, hopefully it's the Hauser brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not sure what your feelings on GTA 5 are. With the 3 protagonists there, but I'm fine with all 3 of them. I still love that game's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm fine with them. A lot of the issues I have with GTA 5 is
the world, the size.
Yeah, you could see the split of resources between making a single player game and making an online game.
Yeah.
And the fact that they never went to it and they only added things for the online game and the single player game was just left shit out of luck.
But hey, at least the single player that we got was great.
Yeah, and some of it was storyline. It's like the little bit of the grindy feel, and it's like through the storyline, your guys were completely fucked out of getting money, like at every turn, and it wasn't really until like the very end when you even got anything for the jobs you did.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing you could do to change that.
Quite literally, yeah, it was set up that way.
Yes, and it's like those things didn't sit well with me. There were elements of the story that I liked. I do like parts of Michael. I do like parts of Trevor.
Look at Trevor, cracks me up.
I mean, that's like him having the bear on the front of his truck.
Yeah.
It's like that was funny. But there were other, like, because you could switch to them at any point, it felt like the storyline was almost too spread out and it wasn't really focused, and I like either giving me complete freedom or it being like really focused in the gameplay and everything's focused, almost like Max Payne 3.
Right.
So it's like I like Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City and San Andreas because those are like the trilogy, and I was hoping for like the best of all those things into the new game, and it was almost that.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't fault them for trying things, but I can fault Take-Two for being a greedy-ass company and wanting all the money in the world and not really delivering a satisfactory single-player game for what I was looking for.
Right. Now, I think all those are going to be fixed in Red Dead 2. Hopefully. It really looks like they're streamlining that story back down.
And I would love for it to be, because, again, it seems like this Red Dead Redemption is one of my favorite games of all time, but I did have some issues with it, and it seems like they are trying to address those issues, where the original game had the honor system, but it didn't feel like it was really implemented into anything that happened. It's like, why would John not be honorable?
Right.
But it's like
you almost feel you don't have a choice in that game. You have to be honorable.
And it's like there are prostitutes in the game, but you can't do anything with them because John reacts that way. Well, that makes sense in the character format, but then it's like in some aspects, why even have them in there?
It's to build the world, I guess.
Yeah,
but this does look like, and it's really weird to say it because of how excellent that game is, and it is my favorite game of all time, the first Red Dead Redemption. But it almost feels like they're taking that and just perfecting it.
Right.
Which is what I'm really hoping for.
There are only so many things they can do with artificial intelligence, if you could even call it artificial intelligence. I just want a better illusion of choice. And I feel like, much like with Telltale games, Grand Theft Auto 5 didn't have a very immersive illusion of choice.
Right.
Therefore, I felt like I was playing someone else's game, and I wasn't getting as involved as I wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. And it looks like, hopefully, that they're going to address that in this one.
Yeah.
They've been really leaning hard into the, like, you're Arthur the way you want kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And I do realize they don't have multiple endings, and the storyline doesn't change. There aren't, like, branching storylines.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, the town will treat you differently, and you'll get different bonuses or perks with if you're good or if you're bad. I just hope it's not like that's one of the nice things about with Bethesda, like with Fallout 3, you could really be evil in some aspects.
Yeah.
Like you could detonate the bomb in Megaton.
Yeah.
But then there are other aspects. It doesn't make sense why, this evil bastard would, I'll go and get, 10 Nuka-Colas for you. It's like, why would I? No, bam, bam, you're dead. Now I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, or like in Fallout 4, I think was a big offender, similarly to what you were talking about with Red Dead, where it's like, well, why wouldn't I be honorable? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you have 4 choices that you could choose, but they're all saying yes, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's like, once the illusion is broken, if the gameplay isn't there, then you're kind of like, well, I don't really, after I beat the game, or I don't want to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, with Skyrim, for a long time, I didn't even do anything with the main storyline. Like, I literally, like, it was the first town I was supposed to go to, and I just put it off until I was, like, level 36. Which at that point is like a breeze to go through.
Yeah.
But it's like, I wanted to spend hours and hours and hours just discovering things and walking around and collecting butterflies and hunting pelts and, which is like completely idiotic probably to some people, but
it's what I'm really hoping this game is.
Yeah, I want to take my bow and I want to go out and hunt, and I want to be a guy that gets pelts for a while, and then I just want to do some shopping or do some stuff with my camp and not feel. I mean, that was one of the things with Fallout 4 is like, oh, hey, go find your son. But before you do that, why don't you help us build a town? And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that doesn't
come help us do all these things first. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why wouldn't I, like, as soon as possible, try to go and find my son? Because as far as I know, it's been minutes since he's been taken from me, and he's a little baby.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's in some stories, it's hard for me to get into an established character because I don't think if they don't act like I think they should act, it takes me out of it because now I know I'm not making any of the decisions. I'm not acting in accordance to what I think the storyline should do.
Right. Which is what I'm really hopeful for this one, because it doesn't have Telltale style choices. Oh, R.I.P. Telltale, by the way. In the dialogue, like when it comes to missions, it looks like standard Rockstar fare where you'll just talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's in like the NPC interactions, I think, is where all the other things come into play. You can choose to be nice, you can choose to be evil.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that there's not a disconnect. Like again, like there was in Red Dead. If you put this honor system into Red Dead 1, again, it's just going to force you to be honorable because the things you're doing as John Marston, the character you're playing, wouldn't act in those ways towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense for the story, which I really like to do in those games. I like to immerse myself in that and feel like it's a coherent narrative, like you were saying too. So I'm hoping that that's what this is, and we'll have to wait and see. I trust Rockstar, but we'll see.
I mean, I agree with you. John Marston, Red Dead Redemption was literal in the fact that Marston had already done the bad stuff, and now he's trying to redeem what it was that he had done.
Yeah.
This game, going back in time, it seems like it will give you the ability to do the things you have to be redeemed for.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's very true.
If they set it up that way, and Arthur could be a mean and total ass if he wants, and then when it gets closer to the end of the game, he decides to do more helpful, nice things, and there's like some sort of a character arc, that would make way more sense than almost like, I hope they don't start him like, he's a secret spy from the U.S. government that's trying to infiltrate the gang, but don't do bad things, because then I'll be like, well, now I don't have any choice.
Yeah. I don't think it's like that. I think they set up Arthur as a longtime like friend and cohort with the gang who's just getting sick and tired of it now. He's teetering on the edge of being tired of all that life, which I think is going to play into the end of the story. I think it's going to end with Arthur telling John to get out, like, while you still can. Take Abigail, take Jack, leave. And that'll be how he redeems himself. Have the life I didn't get to have.
Mm-hmm.
Go be a family, go elsewhere, leave all this behind. And then I don't know what happens to Arthur. I don't think you're going to die. I don't think they'll do that twice. And you're certainly not going to play as John.
I think people are expecting it, and so hopefully that means they won't do it.
Well, that'd be how many games in a row fucking Rockstar does.
Yeah, which at that point, then it becomes a signature, and you almost have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, nobody had to die in GTA 5. I don't know what route you took.
There's I did the save all three. Yeah.
Good, because that's the best ending. Did you play all three? Because you can go back and play them. Because I did to get that gold medal achievement or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I did do the things where you could do the others, and then I went and looked up online to make sure that and I watched the videos to make sure there weren't any variances, and there were like little tiny dialogue variances, but basically...
Well, one was kill one person, or one was kill Michael, one was kill Trevor, or one was Death Wish, it was called, or something.
Yeah.
Which is the one I picked, and it has that great final shot of the three of them stuffing the guy in the trunk and pushing it off the cliff.
Right.
Which just works well. I almost wish they didn't give you that 3 choice and just went with that ending.
Yeah.
I know people that killed one of them and were like, that game's ending was shit. It's like, the tone of the rest of that game to end on a downer like that, it's not really a good choice to have.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the way everything ended up for Nico in the 4th game.
Yeah. But that is a very brooding and depressing game with bites of satire as well. Right. GTA 4. But GTA 5 is a lot more absurd because it's about that LA lifestyle or whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows? We got 16 days until this goddamn game comes out, and we have no idea.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't know the ending.
I hope not.
That soon.
Yeah. So if this podcast comes out on the 26th, and if anyone's listening to it and I spoiled the end of that game, just know I have no idea how I did that. Maybe Rockstar should rate it better if I called it 16 days in advance.
Yeah. I'm trying not to have too much beforehand.
Yeah.
Like that I expect.
I'd try not to expect anything at all. I'm just taking whatever information comes in the door and going, nice, and just going back to my cave until it comes out.
And it's going to be hard to have a better character than John Marston.
It's going to be very hard. But if anybody can do it,
it will be the guys that wrote that version anyway.
That is exactly right. And apparently Marston's a bit more brash and a bit more of like a dick. And also everybody bullies the shit out of him.
Right.
In the gang, which is going to be really, I think it's going to be really interesting to see that side of the character. And then I think it's going to be interesting, conversely, to go back and play Red Dead Redemption 1 after playing this one. And like you said, seeing all those things that we had to redeem ourselves for.
Yeah.
You know,
So
the Blackwater Massacre is going to happen at some point in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing, like, it should be one of those, like, Dragon Age type things, whereas you're at the camp, and then you eventually get people to kind of, like, go with you if you build up a rapport with them.
Yeah, that's apparently what it's like.
I'm going to hard try to get John Marston on my team.
Every single time? Yeah, right? That's basically what everybody's going to do, I think.
Right.
Which I honestly think they'll take him out of the game at some point.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
What if John's gone in the first half of the game, of the story?
It wouldn't surprise me.
And Rockstar was like, no, this isn't his story. He already played his story. But who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised if he's just in it like a chapter.
Yeah.
You know,
but I don't think that's what it is, though. Because he's been around. They were really advertising that you could bring him along on all these things. Well, at the same time, they weren't. And Rob, what's his last name? Whiteoff?
Uh-huh.
You know who I mean? Like, the voice actor for John also only played John Marston and then retired from voice acting.
Yeah.
And they got him back for this. So maybe he didn't want to do it all too much. So they're like, no, you got like 15 lines. Who knows?
I mean, that would be an easy way.
Yep.
Record for a day.
I think if they did that, they would have to do it incredibly well. A lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say until it happens, I guess.
Yep.
I just hope it's not anything like ridiculous.
What do you mean?
John dies and Arthur has to have facial reconstructive surgery. That's what the scars are.
Oh my god. That's too dumb, though.
I know. I'm just saying, I hope it's not anything that's like cringy bad.
It won't be.
Because remember, Max Payne is the one that introduced bullet time.
Yep.
And Bully's story wasn't that good.
No.
And LA Noire had a lot of really bad problems.
Yeah.
So it's not like Rockstar just has a completely spotless record for great storytelling. In fact, LA Noire's ending was terrible.
Right.
I don't know how far, if you played that one.
I've played it, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows, though? Again, 16 days away.
Yeah.
I think, we're a movie podcast down here at the Digital Drive-In. I think we're going to do an episode on that. It's going to be a special. It's not going to be a numbered one. It's going to be sort of like auxiliary. Is that the word?
Something like that, yeah.
It's going to be in addition to. It'll be like another chapter kind of thing. Well, so if we have the same schedule, one comes out every week, that one will be on one of those weeks. So y'all motherfuckers get 2 that week kind of thing. I think we're gonna
be a Thanksgiving podcast. We're thankful for Red Dead Redemption 2.
Sure, I already had Thanksgiving, but whatever. I don't think your Thanksgiving's enough time with the game to have anything. We'll probably do it like a month after the game comes out.
That is a month after the game comes out.
Yeah, well, I had my Thanksgiving last weekend because I'm in Canada. Because I don't know when your Thanksgiving is.
It's one of the last weekends in November.
Oh, I'm actually busy that weekend. I just found that out. But anyway, we'll probably do a little discussion on some things that we liked about that. And
an angry rant.
Or an angry rant if it ends up being garbage.
I wasted $79.
If it's garbage, we will probably that cast will probably come out much, much faster. None of us will be playing it. But yeah, that's going to do it for Django Unchained, I think, right? Got anything else about Django?
No.
Don't want to turn it. We could talk about Red Dead for another 6 hours if we wanted to and just speculate, but don't have that much time down here, and
down here in the swamp.
Down here in the swamp, in Miss Swamp. But also, it's the Django Unchained podcast. So, final thoughts on Django.
It's good.
That is true. As always, you can find us here at the Digital Drive-In every single week, where we talk about some of our favorite movies and what we love about them and why they're so great. What are we watching next week, Garrett?
Why'd you ask me? Are we watching the Halloween movie?
We
said that. Oh my god!
The Halloween movie.
Like
you didn't
Jeff
know what
Goldblum.
it was going to be. Are we watching the Halloween movie? So the episode's probably going to come out on the Wednesday on Halloween, rather than on the 2nd. But we'll be watching John Carpenter's Halloween.
Halloweeny. From 1977?
77.
70-something. No, 77 Star Wars. That's probably not.
There will most likely be 78, probably. Some discussion on the new one. I don't know if you're going to end up watching it.
I doubt it.
But I am, so we'll
78.
We'll probably have some kind of stuff on that. So
it came out October 27th, 1978.
Wow.
So that'll be the
we'll just have missed the 40th anniversary. Yep.
Wow.
Damn it! Maybe we should move everything back one and release it then. Nah. Anyway, as always, you can follow us. Follow us on. We'll be well after the rush, Garrett. We'll be about 4 days well after the rush.
I don't care.
Neither do I. You can follow us on Twitter at digital_podcast. You can follow myself at Alex's Reviews and Garrett at Garrett DiNardo.
Just like it sounds.
Bye.